Next, we have Ms. Hyshama Hamin, who will be presenting Sri Lanka's latest study, Learnings from Child Marriages in Muslim Families in Batiklo and Ampara, which was a study that was done by Miza Tegal, Hassana Isadeen, and Nadia Ismail in December 2023. Hyshama is a researcher and activist with over 15 years of experience in women's rights, focusing on family law reform. She leads the global campaign for equality in family law, advocating for reform in Asia, the Middle East, and Latin America and Africa. She is the co-founder of Muslim Personal Law Reform Action Group, along with the authors of this study that she is going to present. Hyshama.
Thank you so much, Hanuki, for the introduction, and to FPA for this opportunity to share this research study today. And also Dr. Pratibha for actually setting the stage, so I don't have to mention quite a number of things pertaining to the legislative background of the Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act. I'm going to be presenting learnings from child marriage in Muslim families in Batiklo and Ampara. It was a research study done by Mirza Tigal, Hasna Sego Isdeen, and Nadia Ismail in 2023 in collaboration with FPA. Child marriage within the Muslim communities, as we've heard from our previous speaker, is allowed under the Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act. As it currently stands, there's no minimum age. There's even an exception for the age of 12. And one of the things that I also want to mention is Section 363 of the Penal Code of Sri Lanka has an exception for married girls under the age of 16 and above the age of 12. So in fact, the Penal Code itself does not protect the rights of Muslim girls and children in Sri Lanka, as Muslim girls are the only ones, Muslim children are the only ones who can legally marry in the country. So this study, based on 2 districts and a few cases, about 3 cases from Colombo, the primary objective was to gain a deeper insight, into and disseminate the findings regarding the prevalence, the characteristics, the narratives surrounding child marriage within Muslim communities in 3 specific districts. The methodology that I want to quickly mention, as we get a lot of questions about methodology, the research team conducted meetings primarily with the support of partner organizations. There are some amazing community-based groups in Ampara and Batiklo working on Muslim women's rights. So namely the Islamic Women's Association and Research and Empowerment in Katankudi, Human Elevation Organization in Akrapatu, and Sisterhood Initiative in Colombo. Just wanted to name them. What's interesting is that a few other women's groups declined to support or engage in the study because the issue is considered extremely sensitive. Literature review was also conducted of a number of articles and academic papers, both in English and Tamil, as well as a lot of paper articles and case studies that have come up in the newspapers. Key informant interviews, particularly with MOH in Eravur and Otamawari and others, were also conducted by the researchers. What did they find? It was really interesting because of the 27 cases interviewed and conducted in languages of the respondents, 14 case studies were collected from Ampara, 10 in Batiklo, and 3 in Colombo. And mind you, it was very difficult for the researchers to conduct interviews in Colombo, primarily because there seems to be a lot of stigma surrounding this issue, particularly in this district. And the trust that have been built between women's groups in places like Batiklo and Ampara with affected community folks is not so present in the Colombo district. So from Ampara, 14 girls between 18 to 23 years were interviewed. From Batiklo, 10 young women between 17 to 25 years were interviewed, and they have been married prior to the age of 18. I don't know if you can see the numbers so well. One of the things that the researchers wanted me to highlight was on the educational qualifications. Child brides, all of them interviewed, had poor educational attainments, and none of the young women, both in Ampara and Batiklo, had completed their O-levels. A lot of them were studying and studying for their O-levels, but they were in grade 10, and they were removed from schooling to get married. So their education was not complete. Child marriage also took place in impoverished households. Only 7 out of the 27 cases involved a bride who was in a relationship with the groom, and the rest were decided by primarily male family members. According to the report, in all cases, families faced difficulties that caused them to choose giving their children in marriage primarily because of economic and poverty factors. And they were considered as not only a financial burden on the families, but also due to a number of reasons, including, conflict-affected situations, but also economic crises. These were supposed to be the more viable choice for the girls. In terms of the status of these marriages, 11 out of 27 women are currently divorced. 10 are separated from their husbands. So these child marriages were not, majority of them were actually did not end so-called happily. The main reasons for divorce and separation, among others, included drug addiction, non-maintenance, abuse and physical violence, and other relationships or marriages outside of the primary one. Child marriages that have ended in divorce and separation have led to young women continuously, having problems in terms of access to justice and having to pursue legal action to secure relief, compensation, maintenance. And so these have been an issue where young girls are seen in a lot of courts within these regions because they're trying to access their rights. So what were some of the main findings? There was some significant socio-cultural push factors. There were some significant socio-cultural push factors to marry. While a key contributing factor is poverty, the gap in the MMDA itself to protect the rights of the girls means that when these socio-cultural practices come to the fore, there is no legal protection for them and there's an easy condonement of the practice. Early marriage was also seen as a really unsustainable, life-changing event for girls at the time. While the initial feelings might have been of happiness or that they're fulfilling a religious obligation, thereafter there appears to be a sharp shock when the happiness that's associated with marriage, leads to burdensome care work, needing to care for the in-laws at such a young age. There was also a change observed in the behavior of the husbands who were many years older than them, and also a lot of childbearing and care work at such a young age. Domestic violence was also seen as much a part of the married lives of these young girls. It's clear from the experiences that household unpaid labor was shouldered by young girls, all of them, during the course of their marriages. Women and girls also had very little autonomy and decision making within marriages, and I want to stress on this. The MMDA does not even allow women to be part of their marriage ceremonies physically present or sign their marriage documents, which means that forced marriage is very much possible within the Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act because male guardians primarily bear the responsibility of giving the girls in marriage. So add to that the layer of child marriage, and that completely removes the autonomy of young girls. Data from a 2011 UNFPA report that's titled Extent, Trends and Determinants of Teenage Pregnancy in 3 districts in Sri Lanka revealed that, and I quote, an increased risk for teenage pregnancy was observed when the ethnicity of the woman or spouse was Muslim and or were followers of the Islamic faith. So there's a very clear evidence-based reason also for why the MMDA needs to be reformed in order to protect the rights of girls. Girls who marry young, and this will probably come up in the next presenters section, but they do face a grave risk of reproductive and maternal health issues as well. And it was noted that particularly in accessing SRHR, family planning, young girls did not have autonomy within their marriages to do so. And this is another huge linkage between unequal family laws and sexual rights and reproductive health. Violence was also another huge issue, including economic violence. I want to quote one case where a young woman said she was forced to sell her land and give her money to her husband. Having lost her financial security, she's now divorced and has returned to her family for support. So because, on the other hand, economic rights is not protected under the MMDA, cases like this are so prevalent, especially for younger women. Here are some reflections. I don't know if you'll be able to read it so well, on what some of the voices of the young women that were reflected in the report. A lot of them experienced, or rather mentioned regret in terms of why and how they entered into marriages, and they wished they had more time to study and to be able to be economically independent. In conclusion, just some observations by the researchers. The legal minimum age of marriage is important, and that is of utmost urgency right now for the Muslim community. Yet it's only one part of the response. It's crucial that it's raised to 18 without exception, without any delay. However, additionally, a number of other parallel and subsequent responses are also necessary. by state, by civil society, by institutions that are working on SRHR within the Muslim communities themselves. This includes awareness building on SRHR, equipping young girls with the education, giving them the sense of autonomy when it comes to an informed choice, and options for income earning as well. One of the main findings was that there is no information on official numbers of children in marriages, not only in the Muslim community, but even in cohabited relationships in Sri Lanka from other communities. The statistics is extremely poor in terms of this issue for the country, and that's something that we need in terms of disaggregated data. All in all, there's a systemic failure for Muslim women and girls in this country, beginning with law, then going on to policy, and then going on to societal awareness. And this needs to be remedied with urgency. Thank you.